How do you do, fellow kids? We've got all the news about a new way teens are staying private online.
Technology. Stick around for your daily charge.
Good morning and welcome to the Daily Charge. It's Tuesday, February 4th. I'm Joni Salzman.
And I'm Alfred Ng.
And here are today's headlines. Our top story today, how teens have figured out a way to keep all their Instagram activity private from Instagram itself. Alfred, you wrote all about this. What's the new trend?
So a group of high school students in Maryland have started using shared accounts on Instagram because they figured out it messes up the data the social network collects on you.
Right.
So when you go to your Explore tab, it usually shows you a very curated feed of all your interests, right? That's because Instagram collects a ton of data about you from your devices and your browsing habits on the app. What these kids figured out is if I have a real life social network with 20-something people on one account, all in different locations with different interests and habits, it messes up the data that Instagram collects. This is a concept known as collaborative obfuscation, and it happens a lot in the past. So supermarkets, for example, they collect data on you through these like rewards cards programs. Right. Groups started forming online to trade and swap these cards to mess up the data. You might also be familiar with this concept from that Spartacus scene when the emperor comes and asks for Spartacus to show himself so he can kill him, and every slave gets up and says, "I'm Spartacus."
Right, but one of the main rules of Security 101 is don't share your passwords. So is this a terrible security practice?
I mean, definitely don't share passwords that you use for important accounts. But what these kids have been doing is they've been making multiple Instagram accounts, which teens often do. You have your real Instagram, you have your Finsta account, you have a group account, and then it's for these shared accounts. And if you're smart about it, it's a password that you never use for the other accounts. Then instead of sharing the password, sometimes they'll send the reset password links for other people to log in instead, because having your password reset doesn't log you out. So in some cases, they don't even need to share passwords with people. I mean, there's still ways that this could go wrong, but ultimately this whole system relies on teens that trust each other more than they trust Instagram.
Right. Next up, if you're like me and you woke up this morning without any clue about what was going on in Iowa, good news. Nobody knows what's happening in Iowa, so we're not alone. Last night, the highly anticipated results of the Iowa caucuses were delayed because of problems with a new app the Iowa Democratic Party has been using to tally the votes. The party says the problem isn't a hack or any outside interference, and the delay is in the reporting of the votes. Alfred, does this raise any concerns about election security?
So a lot of the concern around election security is always like the voting machines getting hacked, right? Like you hear about that a lot. But as we're seeing with Iowa, a lot of the issues with technology in elections doesn't even need hackers involved. Part of the concern from election officials and the intelligence community has always been the disinformation campaigns that come after the vote. Right. So even if nothing was hacked, if people believe that it was and the results are not accepted as legitimate, you've essentially compromised democracy without breaking into anything. And that's where the big concern is now with Iowa, with conspiracy theories flying across Twitter on the app, being purposely rigged to benefit a certain candidate, or another candidate claiming he won even though no results have come in yet.
Right. What are some of the problems that, like, what are the things that you've been seeing on Twitter? What have people been saying?
There's been a lot of issues with this app. So this is the first time it's even being rolled out for an election. And, you know, if you have a major product, like maybe test it out before rolling out on, I don't know, the Iowa caucuses.
The most highly watched.
Yeah. I mean, I know that, you know, there are other like election security stuff that where they're trying on like lower scale things where it's like they'll try it out for like a school board election or something like that. And with this, you know, they're just saying, yeah, we'll just throw it out there and see what happens.
This is the very first time that they tried this.
Yeah, basically. And apparently the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf said this. He told this to Fox News, where he was saying that the Iowa Democratic Party turned down their offer to test out the app to see like how valid, how good it was.
Really?
Before the election. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things going on with this. It's from a company. The app was developed by a company called Shadow. Very
Great
cool.
name.
Yeah. You know, you can name your company like non-shady things, right? But yeah, I mean, we're still finding out more about this as it goes on. I mean, people are starting to call it like the Iowa caucus disaster now or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has not turned out well, but I mean, I think the bigger concern is the disinformation part of it, because the Iowa Democratic Party has said, like, we've counted all the votes properly.
That stuff's safe.
Yeah, it was basically the way that the app was returning data to us, saying like, hey, what, like, this can't be right. So I mean, like, they have like handwritten ballots also.
Right.
So I mean, like, that's just going to take longer. I don't think the vote was hacked in any way, but I mean, all this chaos that happens around it is always prime opportunity for like disinformation campaigns.
Right. Okay. With all this being said, it's time for us to turn to our live audience to see where our curiosities lie. We're especially interested if you are from Iowa or know someone from Iowa who has experienced the caucus process, or if you have similar stories involving tech in prior elections. Also, who is on board with this Instagram hack? Anyone tried this or something similar? Sound off in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions in the time we have left. BVG, what's already poppin'?
First question's coming in from Kashif. How do you stop Instagram ads from reading your mind? I swear I'll think of something and it will appear in my advertisements. Alfred, maybe you could explain a little bit more about how that algorithm really works. We touched on how you break it, but how does it function?
Okay, so part of it, if it's reading your mind, try to unplug the
Right.
module chip that they put into your head at birth. A lot of people don't know about this. Like, you can also block the signals using
Tinfoil hats?
well,
Is that
no,
what?
they think it's tinfoil, but it's actually aluminum foil. There's a big
Gotcha.
difference between the two. Tinfoil actually doesn't block the Instagram like seeking rays, but the
Right.
aluminum foil
That's
will.
why they still know I really need all these bras and leggings.
Yeah. So if you do have the chip removed and they're still like, it still seems like they're able to read your mind, it's because the Instagram and Facebook tracking algorithms are insanely good. Like, so it's not just that they're like tracking what you do, but they're also tracking like what your friends do, who you follow. So, you know, I might talk to my friend about, you know, going to Minnesota or something like that, and I've never Googled it. I've never like typed it on anything that I do. If my friend starts looking it up after I talked about it with him or her, that is like enough game for them to like, oh, let's target this guy too, like, because they're friends.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, it works as a chain. So even if I didn't search it up and my friend who talked about it didn't search it up and yada, 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 if someone in that line, in that friend group, like, searches it up, that's like all it really takes for that ad to pop into your feed. And I know a lot of people have this like idea that, like, you know, oh, the app is like listening to me and stuff. That is a fine theory, but like the way that Instagram and Facebook and Google and all these companies are set up to do their advertising and, you know, targeted posts, they're designed to function off of things like what you click on, what you look at, like, you know, who you're friends with, and like voice data is not really all there right now for them, because one, it would take a lot to process it, and two, like, think about all the times you mention something and like your Google Home or your Alexa like picks up as you like would say something else instead. That's where we are with voice data right now. So for them to advertise to you based off of voice data just doesn't make any sense.
They don't have to. They have better data.
Yeah, it's way better data that they have just from like you typing stuff in.
Right.
Next up, I just want to floor a comment from Michael Brown. Says it's hilarious how Alfred leads the privacy talks because you never know if he's going to troll you, educate you, or both. Cheers.
Always both.
Brian says the Iowa caucus debacle reminds me of the ACA website rollout. I don't see how this can be so hard. Now, I don't remember this. Can someone refresh my memory?
This is the the Obamacare website rollout.
Correct.
Yeah, it was basically when it was like, it was broken and they A, couldn't handle demand, and B, couldn't handle what they were supposed to do anyways. And so it meant that like people were worried that they wouldn't be able to make the deadline to get their insurance before they would be penalized for not having insurance. Yeah, like they apologized, they extended the deadline. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, I think a key difference here is that, you know, the ACA website is a federal like government like push, and a lot of people don't know this about like election security and like election like management stuff. The federal government has no control over that. Like every county that you vote in is like determined, like the security of it, the machine that they use, what they use to count that vote is determined on that county or like the state itself.
State or local level.
Yeah. So like even if like the Department of Homeland Security says you need to have this for election security, they can't enforce that.
Right.
Like the best they can do is like, we can give you all this money and we can encourage you, spend it on, you know, security experts to work with your team, but they can't say, you have to have like these measures of security on the machines that you have currently.
Right. And that's why there's so many differences between primaries and caucuses. Like everybody has a different experience.
And then the other thing that not a lot of people know about is look, if you live in a big city, your election officials are probably really well funded, but the way the counties are split up, there are some that like counties that will only have like 1 or 2 machines, and like there's a lot that can go wrong there, but like local election officials often work like really hard to make sure everything runs smoothly.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this is like a big like shot in the heart for them, that like this app that they thought would work like just isn't happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with the election, or the caucus, I should say, drifting towards using more apps, are we going to see that as an uptick? Is that a trend? What else do we know developmental-wise where other political parties are... Not parties. What am I trying to say? Where are elections going? Are we going to see more apps? Are we going to see more electrical interference? Are we going to see more crappy voting machines? What's next?
So there's a county out in Washington that's trying this for the first time, where it's voting by mobile app, or just like voting through your computer. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that crashes. I took a look at it over the weekend, and like part of the thing that they're doing is like to verify who you are is you put your name and your birthday, and then you do a signature, like a digital signature on the phone. And then they verify it by matching it up with your signature.
Which is terrible.
Yeah, which...
Wait, that's it? That's their security?
There's more to it, but like from what I understand, that's like the majority of what they're doing, which this is Washington, and this is the same county that Seattle is in, which is where Amazon and Microsoft are. I'm sorry, Microsoft is in Redmond, which is close
like
to Seattle.
Next door
Yeah,
neighbors.
but they're basically in the same county. And you know, I'm sure that there's a lot of very famous people out there that live in that county that you can just Wikipedia their birthday and signatures. So good luck. And the thing is like they can't even go in and like send their vote in that way because Washington is one of the few states where everybody votes by mail-in vote.
Really?
Yeah, so but there was always like low voter turnout, so they're trying to increase the voter turnout by using an app instead. Virginia tested out blockchain voting, mobile voting, like I think in either the midterms or the election last year, but the way that they had done it was this was only for people that were like overseas because they were like in the military or something like that. So that was like a much more limited test of it, and
which is probably good. It's a good way to test.
That's how all of these tests should be. It should be like extremely limited and not, hey, let's just give this to everybody. Let's see how that works. Because as we're seeing in Iowa, that seems to be what's going on right now.
Right.
Do you think there should be a central organization to regulate the process nationwide? Now, I think more importantly, can you fill us in on what steps might be being taken now in the aftermath of the debacle where they would implement some better security features or better testing or better development?
So nationalized security for elections, or standards for election security, is something that's talked about frequently, but I think the way that our country works, like that just can't, like it's not that feasible until every county has the same exact resources, which is also not going to happen. Also, just like it's different stuff for different like counties. Just like this country is so large, and like some counties do it the way that they do it, like in Washington where they'll just do mail-in votes, whereas in New York they still make you go to the polls and vote. But
like in New York, you couldn't have a caucus
Yeah.
because it involves
way too many
everybody
people.
going to one place at one time. Yeah.
Yeah, and like some places it makes sense to have a caucus. Some places it makes sense to have like going to your polling station or like mailing it in, or like an absentee ballot kind of stuff. So that's one of the biggest hurdles to like having a national standard for this. Especially like, so I think the one thing that a lot of politicians have been pushing for, though, Senator Ron Wyden's like pretty big on this, and he's kind of been at the forefront of this issue, is just have it be, hand marked like paper ballots. Like it's very hard to hack paper, and you know what? It turns out these local counties that can't afford these very expensive machines, little known secret, but paper is actually pretty cheap. I mean, obviously it takes longer. You have to like,
that's the thing. It takes longer, and
you have to count it by hand, that kind of stuff. But if you really care about like election security and integrity, like that's that's really the best way to do it.
Yeah. People on the getting out the vote side of things, you can see why there's arguments for people being like, I can do everything on my phone, especially if you want to get young voters to be involved in the electoral process. Then you can see why there's a motivation to make things more tech. But that's the thing. It's a balancing. You win some, you lose some. You get more convenience. Are you risking your security?
And even in Iowa, they weren't voting by
Right.
machine, right? They weren't using like any kind of election machine, like voting machine to do this kind of vote. But they were still using the app to tally the vote up, and like
send
that
it back
messed up.
to,
Yeah,
count
and
them.
so that's one of the even just like this thing that's like introduced in like can cause issues like that.
Right.
And again, like this could be like really good ammunition for information campaigns. I remember in the primaries in 2018. When they were, there was no hacks in that vote. That was probably one of like, no machines got hacked or anything like that. But there was this video on Twitter that was going viral of this guy who was like, oh, I voted for this person, but like the machine showed me this person as my vote.
Right.
That is the machine like being flawed and I think like later on they confirmed like, even though it showed that on the machine, his paper ballot like showed like this, and that's what they count.
Right.
So that was a glitch, but that video went viral because everyone's saying like, look at this voting machine getting hacked, everybody. And it's just that's like the bigger concern, that like everyone will believe that the vote is not legitimate.
Yeah.
We can go back to election tech shortly, but we're being requested to speak a little bit more in detail about Instagram. So Alfred, could you cite maybe some of the specifics, examples that some of the teens have done, what they're using to actually fool that algorithm?
Yeah, sure. So let's give an example like with I guess like CNET staffers or something. Let's say if it's just me on my account, then they know like data from my phone that says like, oh, this guy's in New York. He comes to like this office at this time of the day. And he likes posts about technology and Super Smash Brothers. So we're going to show him all the stuff on his feed all the time. Now, instead, what if I had me on my account, but I also gave access to the account to BVG, and I also gave the access to the account to Joan? It's now all of a sudden all their interests are associated with me.
You would get bra and leggings ads.
Yeah.
Like I have to deal with.
Yeah, so Instagram would get all that data because like she would post it from her phone.
Right.
And she would post it from wherever she lives, and BVG would post content on my account from wherever he lives. But it'd be like it'd still be my content. It'd still be like I would send him a photo of like a computer or something. Hey, can you post this on my account? It wouldn't be them posting on their own. So all of a sudden, Instagram is seeing all this, and it's like, hey, okay, I guess Alfred also hangs out in like Long Island a lot, and I guess he likes like metal music too, I guess. All right, cool. We'll give him ads for that. So
Stop picking on Joan.
So then all of a sudden it becomes like, it's not just, they don't know Alfred as an identity. They know Alfred as like this mish of like everyone who I share the account with.
And you could share it with like one of our reporters in Singapore.
Yeah.
Or one of our reporters in Australia. Like,
Yeah.
even screw up the data even more.
Yeah, so
Meanwhile,
that's
Instagram's sitting there going, man, this kid moves fast.
So that's kind of what these kids have been doing. And they have friends in other countries where they share it with. Like the 17-year-old high school student that I was talking to about this was saying that, you know, they shared it with a friend in Germany who then all of a sudden she started getting these ads about like hamburger places in Germany.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way that they've been doing it, and kind of like tricking Facebook's algorithm in that way.
So I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that are actually using the Instagram account to actually look through a feed,
Mm-hmm.
is that just one person and the friends are the ones that are just scrambling the data, or are the friends also looking at that feed?
The friends are also looking at the feed.
So like, what are they going to for that feed? Is it, I guess one was like she originally thought of it because of a Lego club that she had multiple users. Is it because like they wanted to have one place to look at all this Lego
I think
stuff?
part of it is like, no, they made that account to like all post like together, like the same way the CNET has a shared Instagram account, right? Like, but like we don't do this to obscure the data,
right?
So they go on the Explore tab to like click on random stuff to like change it that way. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an extreme to go to just to ensure your privacy on Instagram, but that is like basically what they've been doing.
Yeah.
Here's another really great comment from our friend Brian. He says, wouldn't it be funny if Instagram gets wise about this and finds a way to break apart the users based on activity? Has Instagram had a response to this?
They said that it doesn't go against their terms of services because, like I said, you know, many social media managers share accounts for for a different purpose, but like you're allowed to share accounts on Instagram, but they're saying like we would not recommend doing this just because of like security issues.
Right.
Like don't share your passwords with people. But I mean, I think they're doing it in a safe way, as long as, you know, there's not one person in the group that decides to go rogue. But even if they do, it really is just like, it's a dummy account to begin with.
Yeah.
But I think the other question about like Facebook or Instagram, like being able to figure out like, oh, this person is like not who this person is. I mean, yeah, they do that. Instagram's always changing its algorithms, and I'm sure they're like already working on a way to, you know, keep tracking people even through this.
Yeah. And one of the points that you made in your story that I thought was true, or one of your experts that you talked to, is that you shouldn't have to go through this like elaborate Byzantine system to protect yourself from tracking on like one of the most popular social platforms in the world. Like consumers should just have the option. Like, I don't want to be tracked. I don't want to get personalized ads.
Yeah, I rant about this a lot about like default privacy stuff,
Right.
where it's like I shouldn't have to change my settings for this. I definitely shouldn't have to ask 15 other people, hey, can
Right.
you manage my social media?
You shouldn't have like an international conspiracy
Yeah.
just so you're not having
I shouldn't have to
tracking
do Ocean's 11 just to like have my data not be tracked by Facebook, but
Right.
here we are.
ads. Right. Here we are.
How dissimilar is this from Netflix sharing? You know, a lot of people are guilty of that. Everybody's got their mom on their account or vice versa. And,
Yeah.
Any of the sharing, is this kind of on par with that? Does this screw
Yeah.
things up? And while we're at it, I just want to tack on, does this trickle down and impact Facebook since Facebook owns Instagram?
On the Netflix thing, yeah, it's basically the same thing, but I think that
It's a different motivation.
Yeah,
though.
but
it's not
yeah,
about tracking
you
necessarily.
wouldn't want somebody to mess up the algorithm for your Netflix, right? Like if
Right.
you log on Netflix and all of a sudden you're getting all these recommendations for
Right.
stuff that you've never like been interested in, that would bother you. I mean, like that happens with Spotify sometimes.
Yeah.
Where it's just like if you share a Spotify account with somebody and then you log on, it's like, I'm not interested in any of this music you're suggesting to me.
Yeah.
Some people like algorithms that like suggest stuff for them.
The difference also is Netflix doesn't, it's being a subscription model, you're sharing in order to share your subscription. Aren't any ads. So Netflix, as far as I know, they don't track your offline activity. They're
Yeah.
only tracking your watching activity
Yeah.
in the app, at least I think.
And then the trickle down to Facebook thing, I don't know about that.
Good enough. With what little time we have left, we're going to break away. And a couple people are talking about this infamous viral story from over the weekend. The guy who loaded up 99 phones in a little wagon and went walking around to try to trick Google Maps
Oh, yeah, I
and
saw
think that
that.
there was a traffic jam. Did you guys see this?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great story. If you're not familiar with, I mean, people in our comments are talking about it already. But so the way that Google Maps like logs like activity is not based on like actual data of like, oh, there are cars here. It's
Right.
like, oh, if there's a phone on the highway, it's not like this guy's walking on the highway. It's most likely a guy in a car. So they assume that's how they get traffic data. So this artist like just puts a bunch of phones in a wagon and puts it in the middle of the road. So Google's data starts thinking like, oh wow, there's like 90 cars on this highway. Wow, there's probably a traffic jam. So if you look on like the Google Maps for that street, it's like they're saying like this stuff is blocked, and then like Waze, which Google owns, will tell you like, hey, don't take this street. There's like
Right.
a bunch of traffic here, which is kind of like what these teens are doing. Like
Right.
they're finding ways to abuse the way that like data is being collected and like reused by like tech giants.
I just want to know if we think that this is the start of a new art form, hacking art. It feels like there's something of a finesse and a style and a bit of an attitude to the way kids are messing with Instagram and the way this guy completely screwed up traffic for an entire population for a day. Is there something, I don't know if noble's the right word, but at least expressive and artistic about all
I mean, I
this?
think it's just
Something
called activism.
It's like subversive, and art is
Yeah.
often subversive.
But like
so.
I think like art about like privacy and tech stuff has been going on for a while. Joan just came from this like thing at
Oh, yeah.
Sundance,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
With the I don't know what it was, but it seemed cool.
There are a few things there, but one of the things that was really like homed in on security is that the people that made the movie The Great Hack, they made a VR living room where you walk into the living room and it just looks like something you would see like on an Airbnb. It looked like, kind of like blandly modern, but it had like, a virtual smartphone and a virtual laptop. It had a virtual like thermostat, virtual doorbell. And as you approached it, it would like replicate the ways that it's tracking you. And then you could like get a little bit of education about all the different ways that you're tracked that a lot of people don't like to think about on a daily basis. It was cool.
Great reporting today, guys. We're out of time. We'll be back again tomorrow. Sorry for missing yesterday, everybody. We had a scheduling conflict. Everybody was on assignment. Alfred was actually working on these stories for this show today, so it was worth the wait. Thanks again for joining us. Alfred, go ahead and take it. Or no, I'm sorry, Joan. You can script us on out of here today.
Why, thank you.
We
Why,
just
thank
read it
you.
at the same time.
For the new viewers out there, we're live weekday mornings, and we're always hoping to grow our audience and learn more about what you guys are interested in. Please subscribe and ring the bell to join us each and every show. We're also available on the go. Links to the audio podcast are in the description below. For the Daily Charge, I'm Joni Salzman.
I'm Alfred Ng.
Thanks for joining us.
Can't get enough? Check out the Daily Supercharge, our extended post show with special features, audience Q&A, and in-depth reviews. Available now wherever you get your podcasts.